Here's something that stops people in their tracks. Right now, today, millions of American retirees are quietly packing their bags and moving to countries where healthcare doesn't cost them a dime. Not a copay, not a deductible, not a surprise bill in the mail 6 months later. And yet, most people back home have no idea this is even possible. You won't see this on the evening news. You won't hear it from your financial advisor. You certainly won't hear it from the insurance companies who profit from your confusion. But the truth is, sitting there, quietly waiting in 5 specific countries that have built healthcare systems so generous, so accessible, that even foreigners with the right paperwork can walk in and receive care without paying out of pocket. Today, I want to walk you through those 5 countries. Not as a travel agent, not as someone trying to sell you a dream, but as someone who believes that retirement should be about freedom, not fear. And sometimes freedom means looking at options nobody told you existed. Before we continue, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, this would be a really good time to do it. I make videos like this one on a regular basis, and I promise you're going to want the next one too. Let me tell you about 2 people I know. Carol is 67. She worked as a nurse for nearly 4 decades, saved about $310,000 by the time she retired, and owns a modest 2-bedroom home in Ohio. By every standard American measurement, Carol should be worried. The headlines tell her she needs $1 million. The advisors tell her she's behind. The news tells her healthcare alone will bankrupt her. Then there's Nancy. Nancy is 65. She was a school administrator, saved closer to $720,000, and lives in a paid-off home in suburban Atlanta. On paper, Nancy looks like the success story. She's the one people point to and say, she did it right. But here's what nobody sees. Nancy hasn't slept well in 2 years. Every time she opens a medical bill, her stomach tightens. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Carol made one decision Nancy didn't even consider. Carol started researching countries where her Social Security check, combined with her modest savings, could actually stretch, and more importantly, where her healthcare wouldn't drain her account every single month. Think of healthcare costs like an ice cube in the sun. They don't melt your savings all at once. They creep, they nudge, they slowly raise the cost of everything around you. Your premiums quietly rise. Your prescriptions quietly cost more. Your deductibles quietly climb. And before you know it, what felt manageable 5 years ago feels suffocating today. That's the silent eroder most retirees never see coming. It's not the big medical emergency that ruins retirements. It's the slow, steady drip of monthly costs that no one warned you about. And here's the part nobody wants to admit. In America, even with Medicare, you're still paying. Premiums for Part B, premiums for Part D, supplemental plans, out-of-pocket maximums, dental and vision, which Medicare barely touches. The real question isn't how much have I saved for healthcare. The real question is, how do I structure my retirement so healthcare doesn't quietly drain everything I worked for? Let that sink in, because that's the shift. That's the reframe. And once you see it that way, you start looking at the world differently. So let's get into it. The first country I want to talk about is Portugal. Now, Portugal has quietly become one of the most popular destinations for American retirees, and there's a reason for that. Portugal has a public healthcare system called the SNS, and once you become a legal resident, you have access to it. Doctor visits cost a few euros. Hospital stays are largely free. Prescriptions are heavily subsidized. Imagine that for a moment. You walk into a clinic, you see a doctor, you walk out, and the entire visit costs you less than your morning coffee back home. For retirees living on a fixed income, this isn't a luxury. It's life-changing. It's the difference between watching your account balance shrink every month and watching it stay steady. And Portugal isn't just about healthcare. The cost of living is significantly lower than most American cities. Fresh food is affordable. Rent in beautiful coastal towns costs a fraction of what you'd pay in Florida or Arizona. The pace is slower, the weather is mild, and the people, by most accounts, are warm and welcoming to retirees. But here's the catch nobody mentions up front. You need to become a legal resident first. That means applying for a visa, often the D7 visa, which requires proof of stable income, typically your Social Security or pension counts. You need to show you can support yourself. You need to commit to spending most of the year there. It's not a vacation, it's a relocation. Here's a question. If you had to choose between more money or more certainty, which would it be? Keep that in your head as we go, because everything we're talking about today comes back to that one idea. The second country on the list is Spain. Spain has one of the most respected public healthcare systems in the world, consistently ranked in the top 10 globally. Once you become a legal resident, you generally gain access to that system. And the quality, the wait times, the medications, all of it is comparable to or better than what most Americans experience. Think about your benefit there like a faucet. Behind that faucet is a pipe, one Spain has been building for decades through their taxes and their public investment. When you become a resident, you essentially get to turn on that faucet. The water flows, the care is there, and you didn't have to build the pipe yourself. Spain offers something called the non-lucrative visa, which is popular among retirees. It requires you to show passive income. Again, Social Security and pension income usually qualify, and once you're in, you can access the public system. Some retirees also choose to pay into a special program called Convenio Especial, which gives them full access for a modest monthly fee, often less than one Medicare supplement plan back home. And let's talk about lifestyle for a second. Spain offers everything from quiet mountain villages to sunny coastal cities. Valencia, Malaga, Alicante, Granada, each has a different rhythm, a different vibe. Many retirees describe walking to the bakery in the morning, sitting at a cafe for an afternoon coffee, and feeling for the first time in years that they're actually living, not surviving, living. But here's what I want you to hear. This isn't about escaping, it's about choosing. There's a difference. Escaping comes from fear. Choosing comes from clarity. And the retirees who do this successfully, they're not running from something, they're walking towards something. Now, the third country might surprise you. It's Costa Rica. Costa Rica has been quietly attracting American retirees for over 30 years. The country has a public healthcare system called the CAJA, and legal residents can enroll for a monthly fee based on their income. For many retirees, that fee comes out to between $60 and $150 a month for full coverage. Doctor visits, hospital stays, prescriptions, surgeries. Let me say that again so it lands. $60 to $150 a month for comprehensive health care. Compare that to what you're paying right now between Medicare premiums, supplements, prescription plans, and out-of-pocket costs. The difference is staggering. The difference is real money. The difference is your monthly grocery budget, your travel fund, your peace of mind. Costa Rica also has a residency program designed for retirees called the Pensionado program. You need to show about $1,000 per month in guaranteed pension or Social Security income. That's it. Once approved, you get access to the public healthcare system and a pathway to permanent residency. The country itself is breathtaking. Rainforests, beaches, mountains, volcanoes. The expat communities are well established, meaning you won't feel alone if you don't speak Spanish fluently. Many doctors speak English. Many neighborhoods have a mix of locals and foreigners. The pace is famously relaxed. They even have a phrase for it, pura vida, pure life. Quick pause. If you're new here, hit subscribe. I've got a lot more of these waiting for you, and the next video on this channel might be exactly the one you need to hear. The fourth country is one that often flies under the radar, but shouldn't. It's Malaysia. Now, Malaysia might seem far from home, and it is. But hear me out. Malaysia has built a healthcare system that consistently ranks among the best in Asia, and it's remarkably affordable. The country actively courts retirees through a program called the Malaysia My Second Home Initiative, which provides long-term residency for foreigners who meet financial requirements. For retirees, Malaysia offers private health care at prices that feel almost unreal. A doctor's visit might cost $15 or $20 out of pocket. A specialist appointment, maybe $40. A major surgery that would cost tens of thousands in the United States might cost a few thousand here. And the quality? Many Malaysian hospitals are internationally accredited, with doctors trained in the UK, Australia, and the United States. You may already have what people with millions are searching for. Think about that. People with seven-figure portfolios are still anxious about healthcare because they're stuck inside a system that punishes them no matter how much they've saved. Meanwhile, retirees with far less are sleeping peacefully in countries where the system is structured to support them, not squeeze them. Malaysia's cost of living is also dramatically lower than the US. A comfortable two-bedroom apartment in Kuala Lumpur might cost $600 or $700 a month. Groceries are affordable, eating out is cheap, transportation is efficient, and English is widely spoken, especially in cities and medical settings, which removes one of the biggest fears retirees have about moving abroad. The lifestyle is different, yes. The culture is different. The food, the the climate, the customs, all of it requires adjustment. But for retirees who are open to it, Malaysia offers something rare: a high quality of life, accessible healthcare, and a financial cushion that simply doesn't exist back home. Here's something to think about. If you found out today that you're actually on track, how would that change your week? How would it change the way you sleep tonight? Because that's what we're really talking about. Not just numbers, not just countries. We're talking about how you feel when you wake up in the morning. The fifth country, and maybe the most surprising of all, is France. Yes, France. The country known for its food, its wine, its art, also happens to have one of the most highly regarded healthcare systems in the world. The World Health Organization has consistently ranked France at or near the top globally. And once you become a legal resident, you can apply to access that system. France offers a long-stay visa for retirees, often called the Visa de Long Séjour, which allows you to live there for a year and renew. After 3 months of legal residency, you can typically enroll in the public healthcare system called PUMA. The fee is income-based, but for many American retirees on Social Security and modest pensions, it comes out to a manageable monthly amount. Think of France's system like a safety net, one that catches everyone, residents and citizens alike, when they need it most. Doctor visits cost a small fee, much of which is reimbursed. Prescriptions are heavily subsidized. Hospital stays are largely covered, and the quality of care, among the best in the world. Now, France isn't the cheapest country on this list. Paris is expensive, the big cities are expensive, but smaller towns in the countryside, in Brittany, in the Dordogne, in parts of the south, they're surprisingly affordable. And many American retirees have found communities there where life is slower, richer, more intentional. It's not pessimism, it's realism. And in this case, realism isn't negative, it's empowering, because realism means looking at what's actually possible, not just what's marketed to you. Realism means asking the questions that nobody else is asking. Realism means giving yourself permission to imagine a different kind of retirement. Now let me ask you something. Do you know what your monthly income will actually look like when you retire? Be honest with yourself, because that number is the foundation of everything we've been talking about. If your income is stable, if it's predictable, if it's enough, then options open up. Options like the ones we've been discussing. I want to pause and bring this back to Carol and Nancy for a moment. Remember them? Carol, with her $310,000 in savings, decided to spend 6 months a year in Portugal. Her Social Security check goes much further there. Her healthcare costs dropped from over $400 a month in premiums and supplements back home to a small fraction of that. Her quality of life improved. Her stress melted. Nancy, with her $720,000, is still in Atlanta, still opening those medical bills with a knot in her stomach, still watching her account balance shrink every quarter because the math just doesn't work out the way she expected. She's not poor, she's not behind on paper, but she's anxious, and anxiety has a cost too, even if it doesn't show up on a balance sheet. The difference between Carol and Nancy isn't the money, it's the framework. Carol thought about income and expenses and asked, where in the world can my income best support my life? Nancy thought about savings and accumulation and assumed she just needed more. One found freedom, the other is still chasing it. This is the income versus savings mindset shift, and it changes everything. Most retirement advice is obsessed with the savings number. How much do you have? Did you hit the $1 million mark? Are you behind your peers? But savings without context is just a number. What actually matters is what your income can support, where, and for how long. Here's a thought. If the system only rewards you with almost enough, you will spend your entire life chasing more. How does that make you feel? Because that's exactly what the American retirement industrial complex does. It tells you you're always behind. It tells you you always need more. It tells you the goal is always just out of reach. But what if it isn't? What if the goal is right there, just in a different shape than you imagined? What if your $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 combined with Social Security and maybe a small pension is actually enough, just not in the country you currently live in? Now, I want to be honest with you. Moving abroad isn't for everyone. It's a huge decision. It comes with paperwork, language learning, cultural adjustment, distance from family. It's not a magic bullet. It's not even the right choice for most people. But for some, it's the difference between fear and freedom. And those people deserve to know the option exists. Let me give you a practical framework. If any part of this is sparking something in you, here's what to do. First, look at your actual numbers, not what you wish they were, not what you fear they are. The real numbers, your Social Security estimate, any pension you'll receive, any guaranteed income sources, and your actual savings. Second, calculate your real monthly expenses, not the rough estimate, the real one. Housing, food, healthcare, transportation, entertainment, all of it. Because most people underestimate their expenses by 20 to 30%, and that gap is where retirements quietly fall apart. Third, research. Spend an evening looking up the visa requirements for one or two of the countries we discussed. You don't have to commit to anything. Just learn. Just see what's possible. Knowledge alone changes how you feel about your future, even if you never act on it. Fourth, talk to people who've actually done it. There are entire online communities of American retirees living in Portugal, Spain, Costa Rica, Malaysia, and France. They share their real costs, their real experiences, their real challenges, not the brochure version, the actual lived experience. Fifth, take it one small step at a time. Visit before you move. Rent before you buy. Stay for a few months before committing to a year. The retirees who do this well don't leap. They walk, slowly, deliberately, with their eyes open. I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever avoided opening your retirement statements because you were afraid of what you'd see? If yes, you're not alone. Millions of people do this. The fear is real. The uncertainty is real. But avoidance never solved anything. Awareness does. Clarity does. Information does. Now let me address something important. Healthcare quality. Because I know that's a concern. People assume American healthcare is the best, and therefore anywhere else must be worse. That's not accurate. America has incredible doctors and cutting-edge technology, yes, but it also has the most expensive system in the developed world, with outcomes that often lag behind countries like France, Spain, and Portugal, on basic measures like life expectancy and infant mortality. The countries we discussed today don't have inferior health care. They have differently structured health care, systems designed around access rather than profit, systems where preventive care is prioritized, systems where you don't avoid going to the doctor because you can't afford it. That's not a downgrade. For many retirees, that's an upgrade. Inflation also plays a role here. Inflation is like an ice cube in the sun. It doesn't melt all at once. It creeps, it nudges, it slowly raises the cost of everything around you. Your groceries, your insurance, your healthcare, your housing. Over a 30-year retirement, inflation can cut your purchasing power in half if you're not careful. But here's something fascinating. When you live in a country with a strong public healthcare system, you're somewhat insulated from healthcare inflation. The cost of your care doesn't spiral the way it does back home. Your monthly health expenses stay relatively stable. That stability is worth more than most people realize. It's worth peace. It's worth sleep. It's worth not waking up at 3 a.m. doing math in your head. Let me ask you, at what point did you realize that retirement planning wasn't just about money? Because most of us hit that moment eventually. We realize it's about time, about relationships, about health, about how we want to spend our days. And once you see that, the conversation changes. Now let's talk about Social Security for a second. A lot of people don't realize this, but you can collect your Social Security benefits while living abroad in most countries. The United States has agreements with many nations, and your monthly check follows you. Whether you're in Lisbon or Madrid or San Jose, your Social Security keeps depositing into your account every month, just like it would in Cleveland. That's a powerful realization. Your benefit isn't tied to your location. It's tied to you. The years you worked, the taxes you paid, the contributions you made, that money is yours, and it travels with you. Combine that with a country where your dollar stretches further, and you're suddenly playing a completely different game. And for couples, there's another layer: survivor benefits. The decisions you make now about when to claim Social Security, how to coordinate with your spouse, what happens if one of you passes first, all of this matters. It matters in the US. It matters even more when you're planning a life abroad. Survivor planning isn't morbid, it's loving, it's responsible. It's making sure your spouse is protected no matter what. Here's a question for the married folks. Have you and your spouse ever actually talked about what happens if one of you is gone? Not the will, not the funeral, the actual finances, the actual monthly income, the actual living situation. Most couples haven't. And that silence creates so much avoidable pain later. I want to circle back to something important: the mindset shift. Because everything we've discussed today comes back to one simple idea. Retirement isn't about how much you've accumulated. It's about whether your income can support your life. Read that again, slowly, because it's the most important sentence in this entire conversation. If your income, wherever it comes from, can support the life you want to live, wherever you choose to live it, then you have succeeded. The size of your savings is secondary. The headlines about million-dollar targets are secondary. The comparisons to your neighbors are secondary. The only thing that matters is the math of your life. Income in, expenses out, and what's left for joy. Some retirees achieve this in their hometown with a paid-off house and a modest Social Security check. Others achieve it by moving across the country to a lower cost of living state. And others, the ones we've talked about today, achieve it by stepping into a completely new chapter abroad. None of these paths is better. They're just different. The right one is the one that fits your life. You don't need perfection to have a successful retirement. You need clarity. You need to understand your income. You need to understand your expenses. You need to understand your options. And once you have that understanding, you can make decisions from a place of confidence instead of fear. Let me give you one more thing to think about before we wrap up. The countries we discussed, Portugal, Spain, Costa Rica, Malaysia, France, they didn't build these systems to attract American retirees. They built them for their own citizens. The fact that retirees from other countries can access them is almost a side effect of how those societies chose to structure care. It's a glimpse into a different philosophy. A philosophy that says healthcare is a public good, not a private burden. You don't have to agree with that philosophy to benefit from it. You don't have to give up your American citizenship to access it. You don't have to renounce anything or abandon anyone. You just have to be open to the idea that the way your home country does things isn't the only way, and that other models exist, quietly, just across the ocean, just south of the border, just a flight away. So here's where I want to leave you today. Your income needs to be greater than your expenses, but your confidence needs to be greater than your fear. Numbers matter, but how you feel about those numbers, that matters just as much. And that feeling, that confidence, it doesn't come from having more. It comes from understanding more. It comes from knowing your real numbers. It comes from understanding your real options. It comes from refusing to accept that your only choice is the path everyone else is on. Because the truth is, there are paths everywhere. Quiet paths, less traveled paths, paths that lead to places where your dollar stretches further, where your healthcare doesn't drain you, where your retirement actually feels like retirement. The 5 countries we talked about today are just 5 examples. There are others. There are always others. The point isn't to memorize the list. The point is to widen your view, to realize that the box you've been told to think inside is bigger than you imagined, and that the freedom you've been working your whole life for might be closer than you think. Some of you watching this will never move, and that's okay. You'll stay rooted in your community, near your grandchildren, in the home you've built. That's a beautiful choice. Others will start researching tonight. You'll open a tab on Portugal or Spain or Costa Rica. You'll send an email. You'll start a conversation with your spouse. That's a beautiful choice too. The point isn't where you end up. The point is that you chose. If this video made you think differently about your retirement, subscribe. The next one goes even deeper because there's a lot more we need to talk about, a lot more options, a lot more clarity, a lot more reasons to feel hopeful about what comes next. You worked hard, you paid your taxes, you earned this chapter. Don't let anyone, especially not a system designed to keep you anxious, convince you that you don't have options. You do. They're real, they're available, and they're waiting for you, quietly, in places most people never bother to look.